What power do we have in the face of sin? That question became the focus of a massive debate in especially the 5th century between two visions of sin and grace. Two visions of who human beings are, what sin has done to us, what God does in response, what we do in response, and where it leads. The first belongs to Pelagius. What is our situation after the fall? Well, we're characterized by sin. Our world is characterized by sin, but on the other hand, we have free will. And our free will is intact and gives us the power to recognize good and evil and to choose good or evil. So we're responsible then for making right choices and for repenting where we make wrong choices. What's sin in this framework? Well, sin in this framework is, it amounts to willful acts against God, right? It's our bad choices. It's the things we do that are wrong, that harm our relationship with God and harm us. So what does God do about sin? What does God do for us? God does the following things. First, God has preserved our free will. God has maintained the freedom of our will so that we can recognize good for what it is and follow. Moreover, God grants forgiveness, and that's grace. And then, God has provided the example of Jesus Christ to show us how to do it right. So, if you're not sure, if you need an aid to your free will, you can ask yourself, WWJD, what would Jesus do? Well, Jesus lived a righteous life, so you live accordingly. You live after his example and maintain your goodness, maintain righteousness. That's what grace is. The basis of salvation then is personal holiness, but the holiness comes from forgiveness for what we've done wrong, fulfilling the Torah, the law, the obligations of God, and following Christ. God has supplied all of this and is just waiting for us to make the first move. Or if I can put it in an analogy, it's as if we're drowning offshore and God has supplied a life preserver or a life ring. Jesus is the life ring, or his grace, his forgiveness is the life ring. Ties it to a rope, throws it out to us. Being a good shot, God gets it right there. And God is just waiting for you to reach out and accept that forgiveness. And that's all God can do, because he honors our free will. So he waits until we choose. And once we choose, we have his assistance. How many of you have heard that illustration? Maybe in church or youth group or camp or whatnot. I think it's an apt description of Pelagius' teaching. Against Pelagius' teaching came Augustine, pretty rigorously opposed Pelagius' theology. Really presenting a whole different picture. Sin has warped our wills to make us fail to recognize what's good, so that we fail to choose, or even to want to choose, Jesus Christ. It's not that we don't have free will, we do have free will, but it's been corrupted, it's been broken, it's been warped by sin. So that what it freely chooses is always falls short. That makes sin more than just the sum total of our bad choices. Sin is a condition we're in. So you might draw analogies like sin is a power that exercises power in us and over us. We're slaves to sin. Right? We serve sin and the law of sin. Or sin is a disability. Sin is a lack of capacity. Or think of sin as an addiction or a disease. An addiction changes the way you think, changes the wiring of your thoughts and desires, so that what you desire is bad for you. No one's forcing you to feed an addiction, right? That desire is coming from within you. But what you desire isn't right. And acting on your desires is never going to deliver you because your desires are broken. You don't just need better choices, you need new desires. You don't need to use your free will, you need your will to be healed. So what is grace? Well, it's the things that Pelagius mentioned, but it's bigger than that as well. Grace is God's unmerited favor and God's initiative to bring around those who are in need. If my will is broken, I'm never going to choose Jesus. I'm never going to repent until God intervenes. That's what you do with an addict, right? You don't wait for the addict to come around. You stage an intervention. You influence that person's will. So I don't even get to take credit for making the first move in choosing Jesus. I don't get to say, well, at least I have good judgment. I didn't have good judgment. When I was in junior high and high school, I was an atheist. I didn't want to follow Jesus. I didn't need forgiveness. My life was fine. It wasn't characterized by falling short. It was fine. I'm not drowning. I'm fine. What do you do when someone doesn't want to reach out and grab the lifeline? Or what do you do when someone can't grab the lifeline? Do we have anybody, any lifeguards in the room? Anybody who's been trained? Can you show me what you do? Come on up and, yeah, save my life.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. Well, you could wait till I'm dead. No wonder you're not a lifeguard. Like, what do you do if I'm drowning?
Oh, if you're drowning? Well,
Yes.
Normally you don't want to, like, if you don't have to jump in after.
What are you going to do? Yeah, I'm far enough away that, or maybe you've thrown something out and I haven't grabbed it because I don't want
You haven't
it.
grabbed it. Well, have I already thrown something out?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I throw like the thingy out, and then you're over there and you're like
Thrashing around, and you say, "Sir, would you like to be
Would you
sent
like
off?"
to be saved?
Yeah, because I don't want to violate your free will.
Yeah.
You don't do that, do you?
No.
What do you do? Show us.
Well, I guess I could offer it to you and sort of hand it to you
Yeah,
and
let's-
wrap your arm in it, but you wouldn't want to like make physical
Yeah.
contact with the person because they could drag you down.
Let's say you don't even have. Right. Well, let's say you don't have the object. What do you do? Come on.
Grab you?
Yeah. From what angle? You don't do it from the side.
From the front.
No, you don't do it from the front. Come on.
It's a long time.
Apparently not. You know me now.
So I would grab and then
You wanna? You're okay, huh?
okay.
Do you remember what to do? I'm drowning here.
What are you in?
I'm in deep water.
Then you would take him ashore.
How? Come on forward. Show us.
You would drag him. He's dragging you.
Yeah.
There we go. Finally. Yeah, you're not. Thank you. You come around the back of a drowning person. You hold them back. You hold my arms back so that I don't take you down too, right? You immobilize me, and you drag me to shore. You don't honor my free will. My free will is broken. right? I'll drown you if you're too polite and like reserved and stuff. You just get in. You just get in and do it. Now, what if I'm drowned? What if I'm unconscious? You just drag me back, right? Well, what are we? Are we drowning? Paul says we're dead in our sins. We're drowned. Augustine has a graver sense of the situation. Sin has left us disabled, irrational. We still will, but what we will kill us and kill others. And so what God has to do is not wait for us to make the first move. He has to make the first move. Then recover us. So I don't get to take credit for choosing salvation. Salvation chose me. Right? The lifeguard doesn't ask. Jesus doesn't go to Lazarus' tomb and say, Lazarus, you want to live again? Just let me know. I'm right here. I stand at the tomb and knock. No, Lazarus is not in a position to do that. Jesus is going to have to call him to life, call him to come out. All right? Grace runs deeper, comes earlier, lasts longer, because our need runs deeper, lasts longer, will never respond on its own. If you want to sum up these positions, for Pelagius, free will allows us to still choose good over evil. For Augustine, sin corrupts everything, even our mind, even our will, every part of me. The word for this is total depravity. It doesn't mean that I never do anything remotely good at all. It means nothing I do escapes sins, compromises. It means everything I do falls short in some way, even my willing. What's the outcome? The Council of Ephesus in 431 and the Council of Orange in 529 reject and condemn Pelagianism. It's not our gospel. It's not God's relationship with Israel. It's not Jesus' relationship with his disciples. It's not our relationship with God. All right? Pelagius is rejected as a heretic. Eastern Orthodoxy still wants to emphasize cooperation, what they call synergy, working together, divine cooperation with humanity. But always God is the necessary partner and the first partner who brings us around to cooperating and who's tolerant of our uncooperation. Think of the patience of God waiting to bring us to a point of cooperating. The Western Augustinian tradition, whether it's Calvinist or Arminian, teaches total depravity and what's called prevenient grace, prior grace. Grace that comes first before I want it or will it or even know it. Pelagius has a less grave, a shallower doctrine of sin, and so he ends up with a less grave or a shallower doctrine of grace. And Augustine's has a deeper understanding of sin and a deeper knowledge of grace. And the one who is forgiven much loves much. It has a deeper love to it. We're stuck, humanly speaking. That means what happens, God is going to have to do. And to set the stage, I want to draw you to a line of reasoning from Athanasius of Alexandria in the 4th century that's repeated by Anselm of Canterbury 600 years later. Sin doesn't just leave us in a dilemma, it leaves God in a dilemma. On the one hand, should God punish sin? Should God wipe out that which is opposed to his will? That would be just, I suppose. Augustine Athanasius and Anselm suppose that would be just. On the other hand, it would wipe out God's creation. And that's kind of like a consolation prize to the devil. That lets sin gain a kind of victory. On the other hand, just showing mercy and not addressing sin, not punishing sin, that compromises God's justice. That's not right. It's not right to let sin continue to corrupt and erode God's good creation. So what can he do? He can't punish it, and he can't not punish it. That dilemma finds its solution not in God deciding to punish or to overlook sin, but to come. God's advent, God's coming to his creation, is what leaps over the two horns of the dilemma. Taking on punishment, taking on death, taking on disposal, in a way that addresses the problem, addresses sin, without ruining creation in the process or annihilating creation in the process. God makes the first move, but it's a self move. It's almost literally a move. And that is going to take us to our next topic, the topic of election.